Hello, everyone. So excited to be chatting with you all today. For anyone who is new, my name is Melanie Naranjo. I'm the CPO here at Ethena. We do compliance training, everything from harassment prevention and cybersecurity, all the way to hotline and case management. And one of the things that we realize as we partner with more and more of you is just how critical and important it is to build a sense of people community. And so that's really what we try to do in these webinars. And as you can tell from the comments, we are very active. This is where you're going to find your buddies. I'm not kidding you. Share your contact information. If you find someone that you're vibing with in the comments, follow up with them on LinkedIn, be friends, set up a quarterly check-in. This is where you're going to build your community, because give me a +1 in the comments if you agree, but HR can be a very lonely place. And so the more that you can have, yes, the more than you can have a network, especially a network outside of your own company, so that you can get a fresh perspective, speak with a bit more neutrality, the more you're going to benefit in your HR career. So with that said, the rules of these webinars, before I jump into it, is I like to make them interactive. So I will be asking questions, and I'll be asking for you to answer in the comments. And the one rule is that if you don't want to be called on, when you respond, in your response, just put a little asterisk next to your response, and that will be my cue not to call on you. I want to be here for all the introverts or the people who are multitasking and can't unmute themselves. And then when I do call on you, Ace, who's working tirelessly on the background, will give you access to unmute yourself. You'll see the little mic button or icon show up. You'll unmute, and then you'll chat. If by chance we run into technical difficulties, don't take it personally. Just to keep things moving along, I will call on another person. Okay, so with that said, I am so excited. I can tell it's a really excited and engaged crowd already. And wow, we've got a lot of people on the call today. We are here to talk about anyone who feels undervalued as an HRBP and how to get your leadership team to actually listen. There will be space for venting. There will be space for solution orienting, and there will be space to really talk through some of the challenges that we're facing, so that we as a group can all help each other. And I encourage you truly, I'm just one person with one set of ideas. So if anything that I'm saying resonates, or you disagree with, or you want to build on that and you have a better idea, please put it in the comments. Share it with everyone so that we can learn from you, especially if you found a tactic that has been particularly helpful to you. All right, with that said, let's go ahead and kick things off. Again, as I mentioned, we're going to talk through the HRBP experience. We'll talk about how to get people to listen. We'll do a brief Ethena spotlight towards the end, so I can share a little bit more about this company that I love and that I continue to be really excited about. And then we'll open it up to Q&A for any questions that you all have. All right, so I'm going to kick it off with our first interactive pulse check. Get ready. In the comments, 1 to 5, 5 being I super agree, 1 being I disagree. When I speak, the leadership team listens. So 5 is my leadership team listens to me when I speak. They really make me feel heard. They care about what I have to say. 1 is, why am I even here? Why did they even bother to hire an HR person? What is the point of my role? Okay. This is also, first of all, I'm just loving how engaged you all are. The answers are coming in. It's great. But also, I have to say, I'm genuinely both happy and surprised at the mix of these responses, and then we're actually seeing a lot of people fall more towards the middle. This gives me hope, because it indicates that it's not that you feel like your team is completely shut down, but maybe they're missing the point sometimes, or you're struggling to get something across. Let's call on someone who's in the middle here. Let's do Mary Homer. Mary, M-A-R-Y, Homer, H-O-M-E-R. I don't see an asterisk next to your response. So if you could unmute yourself, tell me a little bit more about your 3 here. Why do you land somewhere in the middle in response to this question?
So I have a very small team. I have 2 HRBPs that work for me, and we've just kicked off our HRBP program, and sometimes we get, really good positive feedback on the BP program, and sometimes it's just sort of like, oh, who are you guys, and why are you even here in the room with us? So it's very mixed. We're very mixed.
Interesting. Okay, and can I probe just one step further? So I hear that those are the results that you're getting when you ask around, but when you are presenting an argument, when you are pushing back on a decision, for example, or when you are pushing for a decision, you're advocating for something, how heard do you feel?
It depends on the audience. So
Mhm.
if I'm pushing with my peers, with the CEO and with the VPs in the room, I feel pretty heard in that moment. But when I go and I have my VPs pushing with the PMs and the project leads, they're a little less engaged. And so
Oh,
that's where we're struggling.
oh, okay, Mary, you are touching on something that I think is quite common, but let's see. In the comments, can you all give me a +1 if you have ever had the experience where you go into a conversation, you say your thing, and it's like, yeah, that sounds great. And then it comes down time to actually execute. Nothing like, oh, I'm too busy. Wait, we're doing what? Wait, this seems like a waste of time. Wait, you want me to push my team to do that? No, we have this other thing. I mean, yeah, it sounded good at the time, but this is okay. Okay, Mary, can we all give a virtual applause to Mary? I don't know how the emojis work, but Mary, thank you so much. I feel like you've touched on something really fascinating here. Um, I, I, what's really interesting to me is, first of all, that we're not alone. Look at how many people had this moment. And I didn't plan to talk about this, but I will since it seems valuable. Before I do, let me call on one more person just to make sure I'm providing balance here. But wow, what a fascinating observation that sometimes it can sound or feel like you're being heard, but when you ask the question, am I actually being heard? Like, are we actually making change? Am I actually having impact? The answer is a little bit different. Let's call on one more person, maybe someone who was on one extreme or the other. Let's do. Oh, everyone on the extremes was like, no, don't call on me. Let's do Nia Dawkins, Nia Dawkins. And by the way, I will never out you all. So let's assume that your answers could be in response to any leadership team you've ever partnered with in the history of your career. We're not necessarily talking about your current leadership team. Naya, and please let me know if I'm mispronouncing your name. Can you unmute yourself and tell me a little bit more about your one? And if I don't see you unmute yourself in a second, I'll call on someone else and just assume there's a technical difficulty. Okay, let's do Angelique Evans. Angelique, Angelique, Evans, Evans. You gave a one as well. Can you unmute yourself and tell us a little bit more about your experience partnering with leadership teams and why sometimes it feels like maybe they're not quite listening? Okay, I'm going to assume that maybe a couple of people meant to put an asterisk next to their response and don't want to quite speak to this right now. So that's okay. So let's talk about what happens when you put something out there and the leadership team says yes in the moment, but then when it comes time to action, they don't actually follow through. I'm going to throw out my personal opinion here, and please in the comments let me know if you agree or disagree. I think what happens is that your priority is not their priority. And so in the moment, they're not putting on their strategic hats. They're actually just saying whatever it is that's going to get them out of this conversation the fastest. And so if you're like, oh, let's do performance management. Yep, sounds great, whatever, I don't care. But then when they realize, like, oh, I'm going to have to do this, and it's going to take this much time and effort, and this is the impact. Oh, and this is how we're going to go about doing it. Now, so many questions. Now I'm engaged because now you're eating up my time. And so that's not the focus of this webinar, but I can't help myself. I will say that because I see a lot of agreement in the comments, if this is something that you have struggled with, my recommendation to you is force them to put on their strategic thinking hats by asking pointed questions before you proceed. So normally what people do is they say, any issues with this? Are we good? Do you like this? What are they going to say? Yes, right? Yeah, sounds fine. Better is, hey, if this breaks, what will be the reason? Like, what would be the thing about this that would cause it to fail? Or perhaps, let's see, how much time are you willing to invest in this? And at what point does this become too much of a time investment? You want to ask them questions that are going to force them to really stop and think like, wait, what do you mean time investment? I have to put time into this? Or, what would make it break? Honestly, if you did it around end of quarter, because that's when I'm going to be too busy and I'm not going to be into it anymore, right? Or if you change your mind about this and you no longer want to do it this time next quarter, it will be because dot, dot, dot. Force them to give you an answer. Don't give them yes, no questions that they can cop out on. Okay, so with that said, let's talk about how we get leadership teams to actually listen. I want to acknowledge the HRBP dilemma here. There are a lot of things going into this that make our lives really hard. And I find that as hard as it can be to talk about these things and face them head on, it's actually very helpful to just acknowledge the challenges that we have to face, not so that we can overly dwell in them, although a little bit of venting is always good, but so that we can face the problem head on and figure out, so what do we do about this? So I'm going to ask in the comments, can you give me a +1 as I go through these, if any of these bullet points resonate with you? So being an HRBP is tough because you get dismissed before you even enter the room. You're an HR person, you don't really understand the business. I don't really want to waste my time with you. Or being an HRBP is tough because I have all influence and zero authority. So I'm supposed to influence the business to give greater feedback and have higher talent density. Oh, but I can't actually hold anyone accountable when they're not doing their job. Okay. Or you're tasked with helping people who don't want your help in the first place, right? What even is your role? Why are you putting time on my calendar? Do you not realize that I'm busy trying to make money for the company and you're here trying to talk to me about morale, engagement, turnover, and retention rates? Okay, I'm getting a lot of +1s here. I want to talk to you about all of this, but here's the disclaimer I want to put out for you all. This session is going to focus on how to get people to listen under the assumption that you already understand the business. You already know how to build people initiatives that revolve around driving the business goals forward versus creating people goals in a silo from the business. This assumes that your leadership team is mostly reasonable, right? If they're completely unreasonable, that could be a different conversation where you have to think about, like, are you okay with that or are you not? Is it time to find a new job? Is it time to give up? Right? Like, that's a separate conversation. The reason I say that is if anyone's interested in learning more about like how to become business savvy and how to actually make sure that your people goals are more intrinsically tied to the business and furthering the business versus functioning in a silo, I actually recommend that you sign up. I mean, still stick around for this one because we're going to talk about some good stuff. But if you want to dig in deeper there, sign up for our next webinar happening next month, where we're going to talk about how to become more business savvy and how to make sure that you better understand the business and how to tie HR and the business together. But let's assume, for the sake of this webinar, you already know that that's not the problem. Your leadership team isn't dismissing you because you don't know what you're talking about. You know what you're talking about. They're dismissing you because they don't take you seriously. They're dismissing you because you don't have authority. They're dismissing you because they didn't want to partner with you in the first place. Okay? So with that said, what can we do about these things? I'm going to start with another pulse check question before I jump in here. 1 to 5, 5 being I super agree, 1 being I completely disagree. I've never had someone dismiss my arguments as too HR. So 5 being I agree, never happened to me. 1 being every time I talk, like I swear to you, I could say one thing and be dismissed. The CFO says the same exact thing, but suddenly when the CFO says it, it's brilliant. But when I said it, it was like, oh, I only cared about employee happiness. Okay, seeing another good mix of people here. Let's see if we can get more people to unmute themselves on this one. Let's do let's do Julie Harris, Julie. Julie, you gave a 2 here. Tell us unmute yourself and then tell us a little bit more about why you gave a 2 here. Why do you feel like sometimes your arguments are dismissed as too HR? What gives you that impression? Okay, I'm going to call on one other person and see. I might have to give up all. I don't know. Usually we get a lot of engagement on these. I apologize. Let's do Johnny Saul, Johnny, Saul, Saul. You gave a 2 as well. Could you unmute yourself and tell us a little bit more about why you responded with a 2 on this one? Okay, all. Oh, interesting. So it shouldn't be you should not be available for all of you. It's only for the people that I'm calling on. I'll try one more just to see if there's a technical difficulty, and if not, we'll just move it along and do it in the comments only. I do apologize for this, everyone. Let's do someone maybe let's do Latasha James, Latasha James, Latasha. If you could unmute yourself and tell us a little bit more about why you gave a 2 for this one. And I can see the Ace is trying to find your name. So it's Latasha James, Latasha James.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Latasha. How are you? I can hear you just great. Thank you so much for volunteering. Tell me a little bit more about your answer here.
So I feel like, as you mentioned, when I give kind of recommendations or feedback, it's always looked at as, okay, I'm not thinking about the business, or this isn't something that we can do as a team. And so they make me feel like I'm disconnected to what's really going on in the business, where I feel like, I try to have boots on the ground. I try to talk to people, and I'm giving feedback or recommendations based on what, I've experienced.
Yeah.
Sometimes they want to just be disconnected and don't want to hear that. But again, if someone else says the same thing, it's appreciated, or it's thought about. They think about it, and yeah, sorry.
Oh, no, that's super helpful. Also, Raymond, so sweet your comment. No worries at all. Latasha, let me ask, tell me a little bit more. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that when somebody else says it, they listen, and when you say it, they don't? Have you ever gotten any feedback about this? Have you ever asked?
Um, I haven't got any specific feedback, but I think it's sometimes I'm asking them to change or get out of their comfort zone with the comments or the recommendations that I make, and they want business as usual. They're not ready to, make that leap, and do something different or look at it differently. So if I say, it feels like there's silos, or that it feels like things, then it's kind of like, oh, I would never do that, or this would never happen. And it's like, you don't know what you're talking about, or you're over exaggerating or making it to HR, or making it into bias or something like that, when I'm trying to call out certain things that
Yeah.
I've seen from my perspective or employees' feedback. So
Oh, can we give Latasha some love in the comments here? Just like hearts. Latasha, I can just I'm hearing you, and it resonates with me because I've been in that space, right? Where it almost feels like, and let me know if maybe I'm putting words in your mouth. It almost feels like there's nothing I can do that will make you listen. Like there's nothing I can do that will be right, no matter what. You see HR before you see me. And so
yeah.
before I've even opened my mouth, you've dismissed me. Is that am I hearing you right there?
Yeah. And the other, if I could just add one more thing to that, I think there's a lot of negativity about HR, like on, social media and TikTok and all of these things, like HR
Yeah.
is not your friend and all of that. And I think sometimes that bubbles up. And yeah, I think sometimes
Yeah.
that bubbles up and it's
Oh
negative
gosh.
for us. Yeah.
Oof. Well, I certainly hope that we will be able to change that by the end of this webinar, Latasha, and that we'll be able to give you some tips for success. And I want to actually flag something that Haley Orr in the comments has said. My favorite is when somebody says, I hear you, but this is a business decision. And let's just call it what it is. It's kind of rude, right? Like it's kind of like the implication is you think I'm not thinking about the business. Of course I'm thinking about the business, right? But what their wording is very telling, right? And that wording provides data for us to think about, right? Oh, whatever I'm doing is sending a message that I'm not thinking about the business. So how can I change that? How can I reframe this? So let's talk about some actual practical tips that you all can start leveraging today. All right. So this is going to sound tough, all. Hear me out. Hear me out. I have HR in quotes here because I low key don't mean what I'm saying. You want to remove HR from the discussion. Now, what I mean by that is, of course, we're not removing HR from the discussion. HR fundamentally exists to build people strategies that further the business strategies, right? That help us achieve the business goals. But there is this perception of what HR is, and it tends to be triggered by certain words. Give me a +1 if any of these words would be words that your exec would roll their eyes out. Employee engagement, employee morale, perks and benefits. If we start talking about our employee NPS, right? Like, what are you talking about? I'm trying to hit revenue goals here right now. Why are you talking to me about engagement, right? Those words, right, tend to put people in an HR mode, right? I'm no longer listening because you only care about HR, you don't care about the business. And so what I want to do is help us all reframe our language so that we're removing quote unquote HR from the discussion, even though, of course, that's not what HR is, right? And of course, we're still doing our jobs. So we want to recognize and acknowledge that HR is often getting conflated with, optimizing for employee happiness or being out of touch with the business needs and challenges, right? Like, oh, you're telling me that I need to pay people equitably, but you're not thinking about the fact that we have a business to run and only so much money, right? Or it's bureaucracy for the sake of bureaucracy. If you come in and you say, oh, but that's against our policy. Oh, look at HR. They just care about following the rules, as opposed to what we know, which is those rules were put in place for a reason, right? It's because when you have pay equity gaps or pay inequity, what happens? Heightened turnover, resentment, lower productivity, all of those things which impact revenue, right? But that's not what they hear. And so an classic example, we say we need to get our engagement scores up. They hear, oh, I wrote here incorrectly. Sorry, HEAR. I promise I know the difference. They hear you want us to derail business goals in order to make employees happy. What we actually mean is low engagement leads to dropped productivity, leads to missed revenue goals, right? And so if we want to be heard, we need to be communicating in ways that sound less quote unquote HR. So what does that look like in practice? 1, center your argument around their priorities, not your priorities or HR best practices. Before I read out the example, I want to take a moment to emphasize what I mean here. Give me a +1 in the comments if you have ever, and by the way, share also your tips if you have them. If you've ever experienced the following, the minute I say, well, here's why I don't think this is a good reason to do this, they've stopped listening, right? Like, oh, that's HR's listening. It's not important. But if you say, well, but this is what you wanted, right? And I'm just trying to help you achieve what you wanted. Now they're listening, right? Because now you're focusing on them. And so something that I've experienced quite a bit is it's important not to make something seem like your opinion or your quote unquote agenda, right? It's got to be, I am trying to help you do the thing that you want to achieve. So let's focus on what you think is right and how I can help you get there versus what I think, because immediately there's going to be friction. So example of what not to say, right? You can't just fire someone if you've never even given them direct feedback. That's ineffective people management. They've stopped listening. Because what are they hearing? Oh, the reason you don't think this is a good idea is because it's not good HR. But like, HR is not always the priority. Sometimes you have to break HR best practices to push the business forward. That's what they hear, right? Oh, you're so focused on like not hurting people's feelings, on like doing the right thing, on giving people a chance, right? What you actually mean and what you want to say is, I understand that you are optimizing for hitting your sales goals. Now, we can fire this person and we can backfill them, but doing so is going to take 8 to 12 weeks of recruitment and then another 2 to 3 months of ramp time. I'm not telling you what to do or what you shouldn't do. What I'm saying is that that's a minimum of 4 months of lost quota attainment, which you have told me is your priority. So an alternative option could be just coaching this person. Maybe you just give that person feedback and see before you pull the trigger on them and fire them if 2-3 weeks you can have someone up and running versus now you just lost 4 months of quota attainment, right? You want to reframe it so that it's not about what is HR best practice, but more, what are you trying to achieve? And how can we achieve the thing that you want to do? And is the thing that you're doing right now actually going to help you achieve that thing? 2, you want to focus on the business impact, not policy or process. So it is always the wrong thing to say, but that's in conflict with our policy. But our policy says this: your CEO, your leadership team does not care. Because what they're hearing is you don't know how to think strategically. You're so stuck in process that you don't know how to adjust in the moment, that you don't know how to give and take, that you only follow a set list of rules instead of thinking strategically about what the business needs and when we need to adapt. So instead, what you actually want to say is get to the root of the issue and why you think it's so important to follow the policy. So if it's a pay issue, right? We can't pay them above salary band. That's in conflict with our policy. Listen, I'm gonna be real with you. Our employees talk. And if they find out that we paid this new hire above salary band, we're going to see people quitting. We're going to see them quiet quitting. We're going to see them giving less. And you've already been struggling to get people to do their job. We've already been missing our goals. So you tell me, are you confident that you're going to be able to hit your goals if you lose your top performers as a result of paying this person above band? And do you think that that is a risk worth taking? Right? I'm not forcing anything on you. I'm not telling you that you should or shouldn't do something. I'm not even talking about our policy. I'm asking you to think logically and strategically. Based on this information, what do you think is the best path forward? And then finally, you want to tailor your positioning to the persona that you're partnering with. So employee turnover is a metric that's really important to HR people because we understand what it means. We understand all the implicit ways that it connects to business. That's not necessarily a term that's going to mean a whole lot for other people across your leadership team. So instead, you want to talk about the things that they are actually thinking about, right? If you're talking to a product leader or an engineer, what you want to say is, hey, what's the thing you care about? You care about hitting your product release dates. Well, I just looked and I saw that you missed your last 3 product release dates. And then I did some digging and I found out that it seems to be tied to the fact that you've had 3 people quit in the last 3 months. And so you've been scrambling for coverage and you haven't been able to achieve the output that you committed to at the start of this quarter. And so I'm wondering if we might want to dig into what is causing this increase in turnover on the team, and if that might actually be able to help you achieve your goals, right? At no point have I said, well, I did this thing in a separate silo, and I looked at our engagement rates and our retention rates, and they are low, and we need to fix that. They don't care about that. They care about this thing that they're trying to solve, and how can I look at their thing and then build on it from there? How can I touch on the heart of the thing that they care about and then slowly back them into the HR things that I know obviously will achieve success for them? Let me pause. I'm seeing a lot of comments and I'm seeing you all sharing tips with each other. This is amazing. Yes, it's all about speaking their language, Monique. Love that. I'm wondering if you're the right person for the job. Oh no, it looks like I missed maybe a bit of the conversation here. If you have any questions, or if you're looking at this and you're wondering, well, but how would I apply it in a particular scenario? Remember that we have a Q&A and you can drop your questions there and I will make some time at the end to address as many as I can. Okay, now let's do another interactive session. 1 to 5, 5 being agree, 1 being disagree. My leadership team has never responded to feedback defensively. So 5 being they never respond defensively, 1 being, oh my God, you can't give them a piece of feedback or they will panic. They will freak out. Okay, I'm gonna let the answers, I'm gonna let the answers come in. Okay, interesting. Okay, as always, I am loving the variety here. Let's give this one more try and see if this time I can get some people to speak up. So I'll do, let's do someone in the middle, just in case by chance the reason people aren't participating is because of fear of, saying something. Let's do Sarah Woodruff. Sarah, Sarah, Woodruff, Woodruff. If you could unmute yourself and tell me a little bit more about your 3 here. My leadership team never responds defensively. When are they responding defensively? When aren't they responding defensively? And what gives you the impression that they're being defensive?
Yeah. I've been having a lot of pushback lately on terminations when they want to make a quick term, they don't have documentation. The situation supports more of PIP instead of moving forward with a term. We've got like disability protected classes, things like that, and they just want the person gone.
Yep.
They tend to get defensive, but we have some real good business reasons that they don't always want to pull me into, and well, you don't understand. It's like, well, I would love to understand. Please tell me more about the business impact this has and what can we do creatively to think through that instead of just moving straight to a quick decision.
Sarah, can I dig in there? Why do you think they get defensive? Like, what do you think they're feeling? What are they worried about? What are they scared of?
What my thought is that it's generally money based, right? Like they're concerned they've got a truck that is sitting there as a paperweight and it should be pumping concrete or whatever the specific thing is, right? They think money's being lost on this employee.
Mm.
Um, and so yeah, they get worried, they get concerned.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, Sarah, thank you so much for sharing. And just know that you are not alone. A lot of people struggle with the whole hire, what is it? It's a hire slow, fire fast. This is a really big one. Let's call on one more person. Let's do Petra Kalova, Petra Kalova. If you could unmute yourself and tell me a little bit more about when your team responds defensively and why.
Hi, Melanie. Hi, everyone. Could I actually follow up on the previous, because I was gonna I was so, this resonated with, I think, all of us so much. And I was literally like, yes, money is being lost, but it's because you waited long enough and you didn't you didn't bring us in early enough. We could have guided you through the process. And now we would be at a point where we could have everything that we need to part ways or to do what we need to do. So I do think that, yeah, a lot of the times we're not being brought early enough. And
Ooh.
yeah.
Petra, what a great and perceptive insight. And actually, yeah, of course, thank you for sharing. And honestly, great transition into this next section. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about people getting defensive, and let's acknowledge that sometimes the problem is not us, it's them. And if only they had listened to us earlier, we would have solved the thing. And how do we say that and get them to listen? I will skip this one just for the sake of time, but let me put out there, in fact, why don't we do this instead of a 1 to 5? Just give me a yes in the comments if you truly believe that you have never ever responded to feedback defensively. I'm gonna wait and see if I get a single yes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. So I want to put out there, because as much as I love a little vent session, I also think it's very helpful to have a moment of empathy, just to like put ourselves more in a collaborative mindset of like, yeah, let's joke about it. It is frustrating, it is annoying. And also let's acknowledge that like everybody gets a little defensive. And the key is understanding what triggers people to be defensive and how can we get that? How can we address that so that people can listen with a more open mind? And thank you again, Petra. Okay, so let's talk about saying the tough thing. Calling out tough things is a critical part of effective HRBPing. And I want to flag just a moment of empathy for us is saying a tough thing, especially when you constantly get shot down every time you speak up, is really hard. In fact, give me a +1 in the comments if anybody has ever felt like, I just want to give up. Like, I just don't want to talk anymore. I'm just not going to share my opinion unless you expressly ask it, because what is the point? I just feel worse. It takes a lot of emotional energy and vulnerability to speak up, and you just make me feel bad every time I do. Yeah, okay, I just want to sound like a little heart and support for everyone. We've all been there. There's not a single person in HR who hasn't had this moment. And still, it is important because that's quite literally your job, right? Your job is to help empower people to understand how they could be leveraging and applying more effective people strategies to achieve their business goals. And so it requires that we really lean in here. Now, the key is, how do we communicate these tough truths in a way that makes the difference between us being heard and being dismissed? Now, obviously, we want to avoid a couple of things, right? We want to avoid telling people how to do their job. Nobody likes, I can imagine if somebody came up to me and they were like, Melanie, let me tell you all the things you're doing wrong running the HR department. That'll probably be hard. That'll probably, get my hackles up, and it would be harder for me to stop and listen with true curiosity. We also want to avoid accusatory or judgmental language, and we want to make it about, we want to avoid making it about the person versus the problem. Let's talk about this in specifics, okay? So we want to lean into empathetic language, solution-oriented language, curiosity. Let's talk about what not to do, right? You don't want to say, People find you difficult to work with. You're defensive in the face of feedback and you avoid difficult conversations. Now, let me pause for a second because I'm going to imagine that some people are going to disagree with me. And in the comments, if you disagree with me, please make yourself known and share your opinions as to why. I have heard many people say, one of the things I value and pride myself in as an HR person is that I don't lie. I tell it like it is. I say the truth, and you know that what I'm thinking, I'm going to say. You never have to worry about what I'm thinking with me. I'm going to argue that as commendable as it is to say a tough thing, if you do not balance it with empathy, it will not be heard. And the thing I always come back to is, do you want to be right or do you want to be effective? I don't know about you, but I want to be effective. And so if I can say the same thing with empathy and a solution-oriented mindset and curiosity, then that's what I'm going to do, no matter how upset I might be, because that's what's going to get them to actually listen. And you know how I know? It's because that's what makes me listen. If you come at me hot, Melanie, you suck at your job. I don't like how you run these webinars. Guess what? I've already stopped listening because I no longer see you as someone I respect. I no longer see you as someone who is mature enough to regulate your own emotions. And I no longer see you as someone who is genuinely coming to me from a place of good intent and wanting to help me. I am now thinking, wow, you just want to shit on me. Wow, like I'm not going to enjoy partnering with you no matter what. So I will find my support somewhere else, right? And like that's not where I'm going to stop and listen. Better is, hey, there are conflicting conflict styles across the team. Some people are avoidant, some people are argumentative, some people are peacekeeping, and these have generated a meaningful amount of stress. I haven't said you suck. I haven't said you're defensive. I haven't said you avoid conflict, right? I'm just saying there are competing conflict styles that aren't working well. I want to acknowledge that this hasn't been easy for you. I can't imagine what it feels like to be the head of sales and to have the entire, a good chunk of our revenue goals on your shoulders. And I know that you've got a ton of stress on your plate. You know what I'd love to do? I'd love to make this be one less thing that you are stressed out about. So let's talk about how we can get this resolved. Now I'm trying to partner with you. Now I'm not accusing you. Now I'm a neutral third party. I'm not someone who's antagonistic or that you're scared to open up to. Okay. I'm seeing some interesting conversations in the comments. I'm gonna let you all keep going. Let's do one more section and then we will wrap this up. Scale of 1 to 5. I won't call on anyone this time. 5 being I agree, 1 being I disagree. I've never rolled out a people initiative that flopped. So 5 being I've never had anything flop. Everything I do is amazing. 1 being, oh boy, what was that? If I could go back in time, I would do that so differently. Ooh, yes. Okay, we are getting a lot of 1s, 2s, some 3s. I'm proud of you all. I'm proud of you. I feel like mine is definitely a 1. Now, in the comments, because I'm looking at the time, share your stories if you feel comfortable. For me, when I think about this, oftentimes when my initiatives have flopped, it's been because I tried to push things through brute force and I didn't take enough time to really listen and understand the underlying issue. And I took an oppositional stance. So classic example, I remember one time I was rolling out management training and nobody was taking the training, or when they attended, they were, answering emails, they weren't paying attention. I got so mad and I was like, why doesn't anybody care? And I said, if you actually cared about management, I said this in a silo, not to the managers, I promise. I was talking to somebody, I was talking to a buddy, okay? I was like, if they really cared, they would make time for it. They're not making time for it because they don't care. That was a huge miss on my end. It was just so off because of course they cared, but they were overwhelmed. They had other goals that they were trying to hit. I wasn't meeting them halfway and understanding that actually they needed shorter trainings, or actually if I'm going to assign them a management training, I need to replace a meeting, not add time to their already full calendar. I needed to get buy-in from the leadership team to cancel one company-wide all hands and replace it with a manager training session so that everybody else got free time and the managers just got to take their training during the time that they already would have spent during a town hall, right? I wasn't listening. So what I want to say to everyone is, You need to listen. If you want people to listen to you, you need to start by listening to them. Okay, you need to listen and act on your leadership team's needs, challenges, and concerns. That's critical to building trust. The more that they see that you listen, the more that they will be open to listening to you. You're the people expert, okay? But you're not the function expert. You don't know what it feels like to be in sales. You don't know what the end of quarter craze and chaos feels like. You don't know what it feels like to be an engineer where you don't talk to anyone for days on end because you're just stuck alone at home, especially if you're remote, alone. You haven't talked to anyone for days and all you're doing is working on coding, and you feel disengaged and you feel alone and you feel disconnected to the company. You don't know, right? And so your job is to bring the two together, right? How do you take both your knowledge, your sets of knowledge, to build the right people strategy to achieve your goals, not enforce a singular way of HR. There's no one right way to HR. There is a way to adapt HR strategies to achieve the unique business goals that you and your team are trying to solve. Okay. All right. So with that said, I want to leave you with a couple of questions to start leaning into that you can start applying in your meetings as of this week to start listening more effectively. At your HRBP one-on-ones, I want to encourage you to ask really direct questions. What are your top priorities this quarter? Because that's what you want to be optimizing for in your partnership with them. What are your biggest headaches, your challenges? Even more direct, what HR initiatives feel like a waste of time to you? Why? I want to know if you think the management training was a waste of time. I want to know if you thought that holiday party was a waste of money and resources. I want to know if you thought the swag that we sent out was crap and actually employees hated it and it was a distraction from actual business goals. I want to know. And then, because you want to be solution oriented, what do you wish HR was focusing on instead? Right? What would you do differently? You want to always encourage people to collaborate with you, not just feed you problems. Okay. Now, when navigating pushback, if you have a proposal, we've talked about some of these already, right? Maybe, for example, you're talking about someone wanting to fire someone quickly. Maybe you're talking about them not wanting to roll out management training or do performance reviews. I would urge you to hold back on the desire to fight them and tell them all the reasons why they're wrong and you're right. And instead, get curious. What about this initiative feels like a burden to you? I'll give you a very specific example. We do performance reviews at Ethena. One of our core values, we only have four. One of our core values is feedback. And yet every time I was doing perf reviews, I was getting the most feedback about how time consuming it was, how stressful it was. And so I asked them, what about this is a burden to you? Is it actually like time? Is it the structure? Is it the planning? Does it feel like you're not actually getting the impact that I'm promising you all? Like what is it? And what we learned was it's not that people didn't want to give feedback or didn't have plenty of feedback to share. It's that they were really struggling to put their thoughts all together and really take the time to make sure it was, connected to the business goals, connected to the job description, connected to our values, all of that stuff. They were good at communicating, but it just took them too much time to write it. And so what we do? We just created a custom GPT. And I thought this was low lift on my end. I was like, I don't know, let's see if this helps. Let's just try. You said this was holding you back. Let's see. When I tell you that we got the most positive feedback about it, not just because it was AI, but because literally what it allowed people to do was voice memo, stream of consciousness. Here's where I think this person needs to improve. Here's where I think this person is doing a really great job and why I would hire them again. ChatGPT, can you take Melanie's custom instructions and reformat this feedback into the format of our performance review template? Boom, done. In seconds, got them 80% of the way there, right? And so again, it's really just about listening to them and understanding what is the underlying issue and how can I solve for it? Because maybe it's not that they hate performance reviews. Maybe it's that they hate writing. Maybe it's that they think that the performance review is too long. Maybe they think it's that the performance reviews actually aren't having impact and employees are walking away and they didn't get anything out of it. So why are we wasting our time? Those are all valid things that I want to know, right? What would you propose is a better solution to achieving X goal? All right, you don't want to do perf reviews? Okay, but we all are aligned that we want talent density. What do you think is an alternative way to ensure that we have maximum talent density at the company? Or what would need to change or be true for you to be excited about this initiative. Maybe what we need to change is timing. I just don't want it to happen end of quarter. I just don't want it to happen at the end of the year when everyone's, already, just like they're checked out and they want to like go on the holiday season, right? I don't know that information if I don't ask it. Okay. All right. The ChatGPT thing. Oh, interesting. If that would be helpful to you all, give me a +1 in the comments if you would want me to like just write up a 1-pager on like how to create a custom GPT for performance reviews. Okay. All right, I'll do it. I will work on that later today. It will not take me very long. So if you have ChatGPT, you can do it. That's the one I use. But I'm sure the same instructions will be applicable to like Claude or Gemini or whatever it is you use. Wow. Okay, I didn't realize that was a thing that people wanted. I will. You ask, I shall deliver. All right. So with that said, let me do a quick Ethena spotlight. And then I will actually tie it back to some of the things we've chatted about today. And then we'll do some Q&A. So we talked a lot about wanting to meet your teams halfway, wanting to really listen, wanting to make sure that you're prioritizing the business and that you're being clear in your communication style, that you are prioritizing the business. At Ethena, we do compliance training, harassment prevention, ethical management, cybersecurity, all that stuff. One of the things that comes up a lot when we talk with customers and prospective customers is leadership teams get really annoyed when they feel like they are overwhelmed by trainings that are a waste of time. In fact, can I get a +1 in the comments if you ever had a member of the leadership team say like, that was a waste of time. Why was that training 2 hours? Are you kidding me? Like you want my team to take 8 hours of training to do freaking code of conduct. And then you're going to yell at me because we missed our goal. Like, how do you want me to balance the two? Yeah. Okay. Not alone. So we've thought about that a lot in the way that we built Ethena. And one of the things that we have, for example, is we've since created a test out function so that instead of forcing everyone to take a training blanket, company wide, what you can do instead is say, hey, leader, I listened to you. I heard you. Yes, I'm trying to make sure that our employees know what constitutes as bribery and corruption. Yes, I want to make sure that our employees understand our code of conduct. But no, you're right. I don't need to make everyone take an hour of training every year to do this. I can instead assign them a short assessment. And if they can correctly answer these 5 questions, then they can test out. And then they don't have to take this training. But if they fail it, then yes, they're going to have to take the training because this employee just admitted that they didn't know that it was inappropriate to touch someone's butt. So yeah, I'm sorry. They're going to have to take the training, right? We've rolled this out with many of our customers. I think one customer saved, I think it was like 400 hours of training time in their first 2 weeks of doing it. And it was all because people just tested out. The employees showed that they knew the information. So they treated them like adults and they didn't make them take the training. Another way that we could do this, that you can partner with your teams halfway is, nobody wants to read a 5-page policy on payroll and benefits and manager principles and like how to access your pay stubs, right? No one's going to read that. And for HR to be yelling at everyone to read these things that they don't care about, not going to happen. Better would be if you just had a policy doc that where your employees could just go and ask the question when it's actually applicable and relevant to them. Hey, I need to access my pay stub. I don't know where it is. Or, hey, somebody just offered me a $50 gift card to jump on this interview with them where I demo their product. Is that a conflict of interest? Or, hey, somebody just offered me a side job. Am I allowed to do that? Here are the details. We at Ethena have a custom policy bot that comes with our product, and it gets loaded with just your policy. So there's no hallucinations. It doesn't take any data from anywhere other than your policies. And that way you don't have to tell your employees, oh, you must read this 10-page document on what it constitutes as bribery and corruption. You can just say, when it comes up, ask the policy bot. Ask the policy bot and it will answer your questions, right? Those are all things that are showing, yes, I need to optimize for this thing, or yes, I need to achieve X goal, but I want to listen to you as a leader and I'm going to meet you halfway by making it lower lift for our employees. And then finally, we have an AI-powered training builder. So what this is literally it's a PDF to training converter. So you could, and I'm actually going to demo it for you all real quick, just so you can see it in action, so you don't think I'm talking out of my butt. You can upload a PDF. So maybe you have, maybe you don't want to do a 90-minute session for all new hires on what your company values and code of conduct is and all of that. What you could do instead is just upload the PDF that outlines it all, and this will spit out an interactive training with custom checks on learnings to ensure that they're actually retaining the data. Another way that I actually like leveraging this is partnering with your leadership team for their needs. So we see a lot of our customers doing this. Let's say your sales team needs sales enablement tools. So the hardest blocker they have is quickly onboarding people and getting them closing deals right away. Well, one way to do that would be to easily train all of their new sales reps versus the manager having to individually meet with all of them and walk them through everything. And so I'm actually I'll demo this now. What I did was I'm gonna stop screen sharing and I'm gonna switch screens. If I could get I don't know, thumbs up in the comments or something to confirm when you can see what I'm seeing. Is this, yeah, are you all seeing this? Okay, cool. Thank you. All right. This is our Ethena page for our custom AI course builder. And what it looks like is, so like here you would go in, you'd add a course and you'd call it whatever you want. So like Ethena sales enablement training. And then you could select the course. So it's sales enablement, you add it, you create the module, and then it takes you to this page, right? And you can create your own slides. You can upload your own training if you've already recorded a video. If you have a video of like your salesperson, if you wanted to go all out and customize it, our features actually allow us with your leadership team's permission, you could send us a sample of their voice, like a voice memo, and we can actually use AI to generate an animation of them. You could give us like, some light details on, or you could send us a picture of them and we could create an animation of them, and it could have like a whole intro video on like, welcome to blah, 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 using their voice. We're excited for you to take this training, just to give it a little bit more of a personalized touch. But anyway, so in this example, this is our AI course builder. Because I don't want to accidentally share anything confidential, I'm going to jump to the page where I already uploaded this. So I literally just, I actually just stole the 3 slides that I just showed you all for these last 3 features: test out, AI training course builder, and the policy bot. I just uploaded that, and I'm just going to check these boxes. I want it to have a check on learning. I want it to include pulse questions, and I want to use the Copilot to specify the how I want them to structure this training. So I wrote this out earlier. So hey, I want this training to help educate new sales hires on the various features that we have to offer. I want you to use a variety of slides to make it interactive, and I want you to include some questions to make sure they've retained the information. And then all you do is just click generate slides. Now I'm going to do that thing because this takes about 90 seconds. So I'm going to do that thing where, at the cooking shows, they put the uncooked pie in the oven, and then they pull out the previously baked one. So once this processes, what will come out is this. So you will see a sample 10 slides, and you can see it pulled the information from the slides I just showed you. So Ethena streamlines training assignments and tracks through robust automation features. And then if you go further down, it has a variety of slides. So AI built test out quizzes, fast and free translations. I didn't talk about that live, but that was on the slide. We do auto translate into whatever languages you want through AI instantly. So you can create a course and have it translated into Spanish, English, French for all your employees. And then if you keep scrolling down, it'll have a check on learning, right? So what is one way Ethena's AI powered training builder allows you to create a course, right? So it's gonna create this all for you. That took all of 90 seconds for it to process. You save and close, and if by chance there was anything that you wanted to edit, you could go ahead and edit those slides live. You could translate it, and it will spit out for you the actual slides for you to then edit. Let me see if I already saved the edited one. Okay, I didn't. So that's going to take a second to load. But anyway, yeah, it's pretty cool. And then you can assign it, you can make edits, all that stuff for your sales teams. So I know that we're short on time, so I'm not going to wait for this to finish loading the images. Or maybe I will keep this up. Ace, do you want to share the HRCI and SHRM credits and the poll while this loads so that people can see it live in action and they know I'm not making it up? And then I'll start taking Q&A while this finishes loading. Okay, cool. So let me look at a Q&A. Okay, we've got a few questions. I'll see how many I can get through. All right. So, we've got quite a bit of upvotes on this one. I know Melanie and Ethena are big on AI. What are some ways that HRBPs can effectively leverage AI to support their objectives? Have you seen any examples? Okay, I'll give you my personal take on this, which is I think that a lot of HR people have been very focused on, a lot of HR people have been focused on how can I use AI to streamline my workload? And I actually think that's the wrong place to focus. I actually think the focus is how can I use AI to amplify the rest of the employees' work, to free up their time so that they can focus on other things. Because at the end of the day, that's what your leadership team cares about. And that's what's going to optimize help your business hit their goals. The other thing that I encourage people to think about is I think there was like a really big push for a second there with CEOs being like, oh, everybody needs to become an AI expert, and if you're not, your job is going to become obsolete. I just fundamentally disagree with that. The best analogy I can think of is I don't see why I should have to learn how to build an engine from scratch in order to effectively drive a car. What I want to do is go to a dealer and be able to trust that that dealer knows how to build a good car, and then be able to know enough to identify the right car to meet my needs. Is it going to be long distance? Is it mostly for weekend trips, right? So that I can achieve my goals. What I compare that to is vendors, right? You don't need to be building an AI course builder from scratch. You can just talk to your vendors and say, hey, what new AI features do you have? Because quite frankly, if your tech stack cannot keep up with my business needs, I'm going to have to go explore other vendors who can, right? So I would actually encourage all of you to really think about, are you looking at your vendors and how are you making sure that your vendors and existing tools are giving you the AI tools that you need versus, figuring out like, how do I build my own things from scratch? Like that's not where your impact is, right? Your impact is in knowing enough about AI to identify the AI tools that are going to help you succeed. Okay, let's see if I can answer one more. And then, by the way, this is it. It has finished loading. And so if I wanted to edit any of these, you could just click edit slide. And then it would show you here. You can make literally any changes. And then if you wanted to preview it, this is what the training would look like in action for your employees. Okay, so let me stop screen sharing now. I'll answer one more question and then I'll end it. Let's see. Talking about AI, have Ethena come up with any training on how to safely use AI in the workplace, video training to help people understand? Yes, we have a whole suite of AI training. So if you're interested, I would encourage you to reach out. You can just respond in the email that we send out when I share the one pager on how to build the custom GPT, and we can tell you more about our course offerings, or you can go to the website. What is your advice for breaking the cycle of leadership saying they're on board and agreeing to things, but then dragging their feet when it comes time to actually commit to their decisions? Yeah. I think it's all about making them put their strategic hats on before you roll this out. So I would even be honest. I would have a moment of vulnerability and say, listen, this is, I've done this twice now where I get agreement. And then when it comes time to pull the trigger, nobody wants to do it. I want to avoid that. I'm not being accusatory. I want to make sure I'm doing my job more effectively. So help me understand where do you think this proposal could go wrong? And what would make this proposal 10% better? All of those questions are going to force them to more strategically partner with you and surface underlying issues that you might not otherwise be aware of. Oh boy. Oh, I'm so sorry that we're out of time. I'm seeing a bunch more questions with like a ton of upvotes. What I'll do honestly is I'm just going to make a LinkedIn post. I'm just going to make a LinkedIn post that takes the questions that I didn't get to, and I'm just going to answer them. So I hope that's helpful to you all. Thank you so much. Tune into our next webinar if you want to learn more about how to become more business savvy. Thank you all. I really appreciate your really enthusiastic engagement and participation. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Bye, everyone.